While you guys are walking up, I'm going to give another verse from our fabulous Abalone songs. This is from Vice Admiral U.S. Navy, H.A. Wiley, 1924. Abalone, abalone, you are a treat to me. We greet you, then we eat you. May you grow in every sea. With that, we're going to welcome up Mr. Eric Palmer. And I know Eric has created a number of videos really highlighting here of the Monterey Peninsula. And I appreciate working with him. He's a friend of mine, and I appreciate everything he does here to support Monterey. And welcome, Eric.
Thank you so much for coming, and thanks for inviting me here. I made a film about 9 years ago and about abalone, and it's really short, and I'll try to keep my remarks short. I know you guys all want to go to lunch, but here's a little bit of I also wanted to thank and congratulate the Monterey JACL for 100 years in this building. I'm a big architecture fan. I'm an architectural review commissioner for the city of Monterey. I'm not an architect at all, but I just appreciate architecture and my filmmaking and my passion for history and architecture as a documentarian got me that position. And I've admired this building for so long, and I'm just really appreciative of the JACL for preserving this history. A year ago, I was walking by, Tim Thomas is a friend of mine, and I was just catching up with him, and I had no idea that we have this beautiful museum, the Heritage Museum. That was the first time I got to see it about a year ago. Just so thrilled to see that, and just thank you to Tim. I moved here when I was 18 to go to CSUMB. I recently turned 40, so I've been here for a while. And during that time, I met Tim about 20 years ago. I just really loved history. I moved from a place called Redondo Beach in Southern California, and that place has no sense of history whatsoever. So when I came here, we have like one Victorian that they saved, and it's like this special Victorian. When you come here and I just saw Victorians in every street, it's just so funny. And I never knew anything about Redondo Beach either. I never knew what there's no interpretation. You walk around Redondo Beach and you don't know anything about what industries were there or any kind of history at all. When a house is sold, they tear it down and they build 4 homes. So that's why when I moved here, just walking the streets as a really curious, budding documentary filmmaker, just to see so many special buildings and so much history. It woke up something in me. And so when I started to study documentary film at CSUMB, there's just a wealth of knowledge here. And the city of Monterey was looking for somebody, an intern, to make videos about the city of Monterey. And they could tell that I was passionate about it. And then to discover we had something called the California History Room at the Monterey Public Library. It's such a special resource for all of us. And to have, for me, it was such a wealth of knowledge. I had a historian there, and I pointed this building. What's this building to the historian? And he'd be like, "Oh, here's a treasure trove of photos, right?" And anyway, they liked what I was doing there, and what got me interested in abalone is a couple of things. First of all, what you notice about a lot of historic interpretation, it's always from the eyes of people in power, right? So when you look at who has statues, it's explorers or people who have conquered areas. Those are where we hear the official story from. So we had an idea about 15 years or so ago to interview residents that have been here for a long time. We called it Shades and Stories in Monterey. And one of the people that I had the honor of interviewing was Roy Hattori. So in the Monterey History Room, you can find a couple-hour interview with him. So he is one of many people that we documented. And of course, that story was interesting. And of course, when I'm walking around in Monterey, I didn't know anything about abalone coming from Los Angeles County. And you see it just decorated. You see the debris in the soil. And You just see it everywhere, and I was just so fascinated by this, and the fact that here's a sea snail that cost you $50 to go eat at a restaurant. What's the deal with that? And then to see, to talk to Roy Hattori and to get that, to get his files, to see the divers was just like, and I got my scuba diving certification while I was at CSUMB, so to interview him was really special. And then when I learned we had abalone farming under the wharf, that was just something that blew my mind too, and the fact that they only grow an inch or two a year. I'm not an expert on abalone, tell me if I'm wrong here, but the fact that they're sitting there for years and years and years growing and growing, the patience with that kind of business model is just so fascinating to me. So, of course, I went straight to the abalone expert himself, Tim Thomas, and interviewed him and made a little film just to answer all my questions. And luckily I had a job that I could ask questions and find the experts and make films about. And so I'm really happy to have been able to be a filmmaker here, and hope I enjoy my film.
There's about 100 different species found around the globe, and the California red is the largest species of all. Monterey is right in the middle of its natural geographic range.
Well, the first real abalone fishermen, and really the first abalone divers, were the native people, the Indian people of Monterey, who were the Rockian people. And we know that because of burials coming out of the ground in recent years. A lot of the males have what's known as surfer's ear, which is when he grows, he's growing opening every year, spending a lot of time in the cold water of the Monterey Bay. Abalone played a very important part of their life. They ate it, they used the shell to make tools like fish hooks and shovels and bowls. They used the shell to decorate baskets, to make jewelry. It was beautiful, that iridescent color. Native people from all over the United States were even getting abalone shells, mostly from California, to put into their regalia and their clothing that they're wearing. And abalone, as I said, is a very important part of their life.
Well, its appeal as a food item is how delicious it is. It has a kind of, it's a cross between veal and lobster, and it has a really nice white meat that has a kind of nutty flavor, depending upon how it's cooked. It's delicious, and it's something that's highly prized everywhere, every culture. The Japanese love it, and in other cultures they eat it raw, and they have a lot of ways of preparing it. It's very, very important to them. It's people who are of Asian descent know what abalone is. They've eaten it all their lives. Many Americans are exposed to it only on the west coast of California. Is historic in itself. I think it is one of the oldest commercial working wharfs in the state of California. The abalone fishery began right here in Monterey, or at least the commercial abalone fishery.
Well, abalone as a food item for Westerners really didn't take off until the turn of the century. No one quite understood what to do with it. There were Japanese divers that came here in the 1890s that saw this incredible abundance of abalone in the bay out there. In fact, it was described in letter as being a carpet of abalone. Nobody was doing anything with it. The reason nobody was doing anything with it because nobody knew what the heck you're supposed to do with it. But the Japanese have been dealing with abalone for centuries. They did know what to do with it. And they were gathering it. They were diving for it. Originally with on the divers, free divers. Little white cotton outfits, no breathing apparatuses, and then helmet divers came with the big heavy brass helmets and the canvas suits, and so there were, by 1920, there were 9 different companies operating off this wharf here, and they would go out for 3 days at a time in the spring, and summer. A diver would go into the water about 9 o'clock in the morning, he'd be down there until 12 o'clock, gathering abalone, and then he'd come up 12, have lunch, 12 o'clock, go back down, and then gather more abalone. And each boat would come in after those 3 days with about 150 to 200 dozen large red abalone. And then there were processing plants here on the wharf, again, all Japanese, right here in Monterey. Initially shipping it to Asia, mainly to Japan, but also to China, to Hawaii, and Australia. But that's where the market was for it. Mostly in California, no one quite understood what to do with it. And they tried different ways to cook it. They actually put lye on it to soften it up a little bit. And they baked it. It was still pretty tough. So it wasn't until during the restaurateur, later Hopper and his daughter, who came to Monterey in 1907, actually opened his first restaurant on Alvarado Street. And it was fast as was out of anything. Couldn't figure out why nobody was eating it. So he brought it to his restaurant, began to experiment with it, and finally came up with this famous recipe where you slice the foot, because that's what you're eating when you're eating abalone, is the foot, pounded to make it nice and soft. And you run it through egg wash, pepper crumbs, and cook it up quickly in olive oil or butter. And soon people came from all over to eat fresh abalone steaks in his restaurant. Restaurant. In fact, there were 2 restaurants in the building. There was a lower level that catered to the working class, upper level that catered to the Hotel Del Monte class, the rich class. And they abalone steaks, abalone stews. Used to serve the stew in the shell. They filled the holes of the shell with lead. Abalone salads, and he was known for the abalone. He was world famous for the abalone. Everywhere people would come to his restaurant to eat it when they came to Monterey. People would pack his restaurant. They would sing songs and write poetry about abalone. Some folks boast the quail on toast because they think it's Tony, but I'm content to owe my rent and live on abalone. George Sterling wrote that in his guest books in 1913. Monterey Bay was the epicenter of abalone in the 1920s and 30s. In 1929, almost $1 million in revenue was brought in. 75% of it right here in Monterey.
Very bountiful fishery of wild abalone, and we didn't know much about the biology, and essentially we overfished them beyond numbers that they could sustain in the next generation. So in 1997, the California Department of Fish and Game completely closed the commercial fishery in the state waters. In California, we have 7 species. All of them are at some level of protection these days. So there was a point in time, it wasn't very long ago, that we used to be able to go down to the rocks of low tide and pop these things off with tire irons, and it's what the foreman ate because he couldn't afford to buy steaks. So with the fishery closed, it obviously opened the door for operations like Monterey Abalone Company. underneath this wharf. We feed them a diet of giant kelp, mainly, and other mixed algae, mostly reds. We're a very unique abalone farm as far as go. We're utilizing the infrastructure of an existing municipal wharf. So our farm is built underneath the wharf, provides shade for the abalone, which is a good thing for the abs. We're basically in the open ocean. We're not in an enclosed marina, which would be a high risk. You have to look at our farm to understand that that was completely unoccupied, unusable space before we set up. How else could that space be used? Is anyone's guess, but we certainly utilize it, and it's a real special place in my heart. And so here I am farming abalone, bringing it back to the dinner table.
It's a very creative use of space. Really, all the abalone live under the wharf in space that would otherwise not be usable for anybody, let alone a business. It's very unique and creative in that way. And then as an aquaculture facility, it's really fulfilling a niche in the seafood market, and we are just really proud of them, frankly, that they have done this in such a sustainable and clean manner. Both in the kelp harvesting they do very carefully and by hand, and run a real clean operation under the wharf, and create what is really just a fabulous product.
And we have a lease with the Abalone Company, and one of the things that we provide is security. We have both 24-hour person presence, and also we have a multiple camera system that surveys the area.
Not many cities, I think, would take the chance to do something like this. It was really forward thinking. We have a wonderful tidal surge here, and it keeps the water fresh and clean and oxygenated, and helps the abalone to really grow. So it's been here well over 20 years. It's something that's been very successful. It's something that is sustainable. We tried from the beginning to make the business work like Mother Nature. We feed the abalone exactly what they eat. We keep them in the water that they live in ordinarily. There's nothing added. There's no steroids. The abalone don't grow really fast. It takes a long time, about an inch a year, for them to grow. But our business has been successful. I want everybody to know that this is a great thing that's happened here, and the people that are working here today are keeping alive the tradition of Monterey being a center for red abalone. And you go to local restaurants, you can still eat abalone, and this is one.
Really, since it was constructed, both the wharf and the warehouse building in 1926, it's centered around commercial fishing. And overall, the city of Monterey has been very supportive of its commercial and recreational fishing industries for many, many years. It's really part of the culture of this community, and extremely important to the larger tourism economy. People want to see the fishing boats, they want to eat fresh local seafood.
In fact, I almost forgot I made this until Tim was like, "Oh, we're having a Monterey Abalone Festival, and do you want to share your film?" I'm like, "Oh yeah."
I didn't forget it.
Yeah, I know. I'm so happy that Tim didn't forget, and I get to see my art still. I mean, it still makes me happy looking at it. I'm still proud of it. Haven't seen it in a long time, many years, and just glad my art can live on and still teach people about a really important part of our history. And thank you for the invitation.
Yeah.